to call the planning board meeting of Tuesday, September 27th to order at 7:08 p.m. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order of business this evening is an A&R. The purpose of this plan is to create two lots separated by a 50-foot wide easement that contains Bunny's Road. Do we have anybody here, proponent of the project?
Good evening. My name is Kenneth Conti. I'm the professional land surveyor with Beals and Thomas here representing the applicant, AD Makepeace.
And for the record, Rob D'Ambroso Law in Plymouth. I'm also here on behalf of the AD Makepeace.
This seems familiar. Would you care to give us a little brief synopsis on what's going on and what you're proposing?
Surely. As you are aware that we had presented a very similar plan several weeks ago, and after a review and discussions at this meeting, we came back and are presenting a very similar plan with some minor modification. The previous plan had created 3 lots. Two large, I will call them estate-style lots, and then one lot that was 50 feet wide and ran along the existing road known as Bunny's Way. What we've done with this new submission is that we've eliminated that 50-foot strip, that lot that encompassed the Bunny's Way, and we've created a 50-foot wide easement. And we use the existing sideline of the traveled way as the new lot line for lot 1. And then all the remaining land will be to the south of that, and that will be known as lot 2. Bunny's Way is not an accepted public way. We've determined that. But it is a way that has been in existence prior to the acceptance of the subdivision control law by the town. It is also a traveled way that has been publicly maintained by the town of Carver. We've obtained records from the town indicating resources that have been expended for a paving project where they paved Bunny's Way. There's annual plowing, clearing of trees, and general maintenance of the road. We are here before the board simply just really separating a large parcel of 90 acres into 2 parcels, one to the north of Bunny's Road and one to the south of Bunny's Road. And it's purely a simple 2-lot subdivision on an existing way that's been in existence prior to the subdivision control law, which is standard checklist on the town's Form A application.
Has an ANOI been done through Concom in regards to this property?
No.
So there's no delineation of wetlands?
Correct.
Has anything changed in regards to the roadway and the fact that this board ruled that it wasn't of sufficient width, safety, or adequate for the proposed usage?
No improvements have been made to the road since the last time we met, but I will say that we approached the fire department, and we have a letter from the fire department indicating that while the road does not meet the current standards of a road, that it does provide access to, I think it's somewhere between 15 and 18 existing house lots at the end of the road.
And on Pondview Way, too, with fairs mentioned.
Yep. I'd be happy to submit this letter for your review if you'd like to see it, but I can also read it if you like.
It was, I believe it was passed out to all the members of the board.
Okay.
In this letter, even the Carver Fire Department agrees that it is narrow and winding, and past fires on this road have proven to be challenging due to the lack of roadway width. This creates potential for the inability for emergency vehicles to pass, access lots, and operate safely. I mean, that's what's in the letter, and it should raise concerns in regards to adequate access and the health and safety and convenience of the people in regards to this.
Yeah, Mr. Shea, thanks. It's a fair comment. I'd offer a response to it as follows. The touchstone of A&R under the Subdivision Control Act is adequacy. And, oddly enough, again, we didn't coach the fire department. Their letter says it's adequate. So, again, if you look at the A&R handbook or you read 81L, it talks about adequacy of the way. So we can't disagree that you wouldn't build a road like Bunny's Way today. You just wouldn't. That's the reality. But it services a thriving number of citizens. It's really a little community unto itself in a lot of ways. And the fire department says it's adequate. And just to bolster what Ken said, not only does the town maintain it, they repaved the entire road just a couple of years ago at a cost of over a six-figure cost to the town. I mean, that's not the way you treat a road that the town doesn't take responsibility for. So, there's a lot of folks that live there now that use it. They certainly consider it adequate. People are buying and building houses on this road. The fire department says it's adequate. And again, this is a proposal to create one lot that's going to be a single-family residence. There's not going to be a spec house built here. This is not going to be a larger subdivision off of this. If there were to be further division of the lot down the road, the Whittemores, who are local, have been here for many, many years, they'd be right back in front of this board. So again, we view it as a modest proposal. This is not a land grab. This is not a major development. This is a house for a couple that's got deep roots here and wants to build a nice retirement house for themselves and already live in the area. Mr. Whittemore's been a volunteer fireman for a couple decades plus, and they've got a local business. We can have them up here, but again, I just want to offer some context about what these folks are trying to achieve here. This is not some this is not a big project, really. It's a simple land division.
It's about the potential of the project, and whether the road was paved by the town or not. I'm not familiar with whether the select board approved it in conjunction with the DPW, or if the DPW pulled it out and did it themselves. And part of our bylaws do require that it be approved through the select board in conjunction with the DPW on recommendation from the DPW. It is not a public road and does not provide frontage for these lots. And also, it doesn't even connect. It connects to privately owned land on the Plymouth side before it comes out onto a Plymouth subdivision road. I have serious concerns about this. No ANOI has been done through the Concom. We can't even reasonably guess the level of development in regards to these two lots for the future. One of them has, almost 3 million square feet, 66 plus 6.6 acres in Carver. The other one has almost 17 acres in Carver.
I mean, I would offer that we're in a residential zone, so this is not a carte blanche ability to develop by virtue of creating another lot. I mean, we're creating one additional residential lot. So at worst, you're going to have one house.
That's right, but the development potential for this road, which is barely adequate for the fire department, and I can't even imagine what it's like to pass somebody, and if there was a fire down at the end of the road and the fire department had to come up and the people had to get out, it would create a serious safety and fire risk, and I just don't, in my personal opinion, believe that any additional development to that road unless it meets current standards of 24 feet with appropriate drainage and safety measures to it, is feasible. There's just too many issues. But does the board have any questions in regards?
No, you hit on what I was thinking of, and essentially is that it still dumps into a private road.
You have to enter it from a private road.
And all the rights do exist over that private road to all the parties on our property, so we do have access rights across that private road onto Wenham Road into Plymouth.
But there's no,
50-foot wide,
Make what 50 foot wide?
that private road? Would you make that 50-foot wide, like you propose it here?
We're not proposing any
What
additional.
you say it is, it should be a 50-foot wide road,
What?
correct?
I believe it's easement.
Easement?
It's
easement,
an
yeah.
easement.
So would you make that easement right through the private road 50-foot wide?
We don't have the rights to expand that road beyond what the current limits are in Plymouth. It's
So it's a bottleneck to get into Carver.
the road
Which
into Plymouth is a public road, a private road that's 40 feet wide.
I believe Mr. Dion's referring to the point between the end of Bunny's Road, which is a private way, and the section that passes through Plymouth before
Yes.
entering the Carver section. Was the question, is that gonna be 50 feet wide easement too? I believe.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Other than that, it's like a bottleneck. And
Question, can we
defeats
do
the
a
whole
sidewalk?
purpose, really.
Yeah, I don't see why we couldn't do a sidewalk. Mr. Bott?
No, absolutely you can. So a couple of things, if I may.
Please.
So to fully read the Deputy Fire Chief's letter, it says there's suitable access for a single house lot. So there's not suitable access for many, based on the current configuration of the road. With that in mind, if the board were so inclined to endorse a plan, they would likely use the language that I had used previously, where in its current state, it is the opinion of the planning board that sufficient width, suitable grades, and adequate construction of Bunny's Road are not provided for the needs of vehicular traffic for additional development beyond the two lots being created. So if that was the case, that might be a note that the board attached to the plan. Regarding any improvements to Bunny's Lane, that's not a process that happens through A&R. So you can't make the road any better through the A&R process. That would be a subdivision process, which is a whole different animal. But the fire department has noted that they can get down the road. They wouldn't like to see other houses other than that single lot that they had mentioned. And the DPW director, Operation and Maintenance Deputy Director John Woods, did provide a letter that noted that they have paved and maintained the road in the past. In spite of that, the road maintains its status as this C, that roadway that was in existence prior to subdivision control that the applicants talked about. So you have a few things to do. You could say, no, we don't think any additional development should happen on this road at all until there are improvements to the road through the subdivision control process. Or the board could endorse a plan with a note on it that said it's not suitable for anything other than one house lot. Any additional future development would have to come back through the board if they wanted to try to create another lot through a similar A&R process. And if they wanted to do improvements to the road, that's a considerable process through subdivision control.
All right. Yes, the fire department does say there is suitable access for a single house lot, but we'll be creating two. And another question I would ask is there utilities on this road, or?
There's electric service on that road right
Ms. Sordillo, you requested a site walk?
You know, I think that this letter from the fire department really gives me the knowledge I need to
Okay.
make a fair decision.
Any further questions from the board?
So, Mr.
Oh,
Chair,
please.
if I could, I want to understand what Mr. Bott is saying. We have the right to vote on this and agree that they could only put a single house on each of these lots. So we wouldn't be looking at them coming back in, looking to put a subdivision in there or looking to put solar in there. They would be restricted to only building a single house on each lot.
That is my understanding of the board's ability to put a note on the plan, particularly something like this that is in that road that existed prior to subdivision control. Now, there's nothing that prohibits them from coming back and asking you for more stuff in the future, but you're not opening up the door to anything at this point other than creating that Lot 1 and Lot 2 is shown on the plan. But I would certainly note that in the board's motion, if they decide to vote to endorse this plan, and I would physically write that note on the plan as I have done previously. I think we did this just recently with Dom's land, Fernandez's land, off of
Domingo Fernandez?
yeah, the ANR we had a couple weeks ago. To put that note on the plan. So there's no ambiguity when someone sees the plan, when it's filed at the registry.
Thank you.
If I may.
Yeah.
With regards to the utilities, how are they routed? How are they routed, yes?
I assume there would be on-site septic
Well, no, the utilities that are already present, how are they routed?
It's above-ground utility poles. Is what-
Where?
Right along the edge of the roadway.
So any improvements to the road are going to require relocation of all those poles?
I'm not sure. I mean, depends on what the improvements are and the location of the poles.
But at this point, you're not talking about making any changes to the road.
No.
If I may, Mr. Chair, it might be helpful if you could give us 5 minutes to let the Whittemores, your neighbors here, speak and kind of tell you, just so it's not this, faceless.
Everybody's
corporate-
welcome to speak.
Yeah, I think it might be nice to hear from them and just so you know what they're doing, where they're coming from, and it's not this, faceless corporate proposal here, because again, that's really not what's before the board. So I think that would be helpful, guys, if you wouldn't mind telling them a little bit about yourselves and your plans. You don't have to be long, but
I'm Mark
why
Whittemore.
don't you come up here, Mark?
please.
We need to-
Down here. Neighbor Frank, another neighbor Tim. So yeah, we've been living in Carver for over 30 years on Bunny's Road. I built my house on Bunny's Road. We love being there. We always said that, if we moved, we'd want to stay in Carver. And so we have an opportunity to move over the other side, where Frank would be, across the other side. And it would be a great retirement place for us. And we're not looking to really change Bunny's Road or change it from a royal, the way it is now. We don't want a subdivision. I don't know.
And we've been living on this road for over 30 years, and there's kind of a courtesy with the community. It's a community there, and we always make room for each other. We've never had any, major issues during our time living here.
Through all kinds of storms,
Yeah.
we've worked together. Bunny's Road has always been really just, there's 32 of us houses down at the end of Bunny's Road. There's a lot of families there. We use that as our main primary access, and we've been doing well.
We love the community, and we just would love an opportunity to build our retirement home.
Yeah, which is the only thing. But yeah,
I
so.
don't know, did you have any questions?
I
for
do.
us?
Which lot are you seeking to build on?
So driving in, the left-hand side.
So there's lot 1 and lot 2.
It's one, right?
So the north or south side of Bunny's Road?
One.
Lot one.
Yeah.
And you're already living on Bunny's Road?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
you'd be selling your house and you'd be
We're at
moving
42
lot one
Bunny's
and
Road.
building a single
Correct.
dwelling house?
Correct.
Yes.
And right now, you own all that land.
Lot
We
one.
live at 42 Bunny's Road.
All right, and who owns lot one?
They want to buy it after.
They want to buy it.
Yes, yes.
Who owns lot two?
They're both owned by me.
Yeah,
Makepeace owns
Yes.
both of them. That's what I'm trying to get.
right. The separation is all about us being able to build a house over here.
And is there somebody in the audience who is buying lot two, to build a house on lot two?
Not that I know.
No. This is our neighbor, Tim.
Yeah, he's our neighbor next to us, and this is.
No, and I would appreciate
Oh,
hearing
it's not
from the rest of the public that live on this road, you know, how they feel. I know how this operates. I run a small landscaping business and I use Walker Road, and I see the courtesy that people give each other as far as moving out of the way and making space and making a road like this work. I'm not opposed to a single dwelling. I'm opposed to somebody coming into lot two and trying to put a subdivision in, because therefore now you're looking at a significant amount more of traffic.
I agree. I can't control that.
Right.
And
But I can tell you what's happened with one.
Yeah, and I just reiterate, Mr. Robinson, if anyone wanted to come back and do a subdivision on lot two, they'd be back before this board, and, I mean, you're given, you know, there's a kind of a strong animus from, you know, or feeling about the adequacy of the way now. I can't imagine if someone came in with an 8-lot subdivision proposal, you'd say, the road's fine. I mean, we're kind of on the knife's edge with 1 lot, so just to be clear.
Or a solar project which would create a significant amount of traffic that I could not see you being able to use that road to do it.
Right.
Your neighbors want to maybe,
Please, anybody that would like to speak is more than welcome. You have, I'm afraid you have to come up and identify yourself. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
and Mrs. Whitmore.
I guess I can speak to.
Can you tell us who you are, please?
My name is Frank Gill.
Thank you.
I live on Pondview, which is just kind of a circular road off of Bunny's Road, and is directly across the pond from where they want to put their house. And I guess all I can offer is, it doesn't bother me to have what they want to do. I'd welcome it. And as far as the road goes, it's wide enough that 2 cars can get by. Yeah, you do have to slow down, but 2 cars can get by, and it's done all the time, and as long as everybody's careful. And I've never seen anything happen there. I've seen ambulances going down there, and it hasn't been an issue. People are smart enough, just like anywhere else, that you pull over a little bit and let the ambulance go by. There's enough room to have that happen. So I don't see a real problem with what the size of the road has to do with what they're trying to do there. They're going to be going off the road and up the side of the pond, and I don't know what else I can offer, but that much I can say anyway.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Me?
I have a question. As it sits now, could they buy the entire thing and just put a house up on one side or the other?
Yes.
I mean, if they bought the entire lot, would they have to be able to just put a house up now?
it'd be a hell of a lot, it'd be awfully big.
Well, I'm just saying, yeah,
Yeah.
all right, it'd be awfully big, but if they can build a house now on the piece of property as it sits,
Actually,
what's, you know?
actually, as it sits now, I don't think so, because it's not a lot, it's a parcel.
Well, what
It doesn't
makes
have, it doesn't have, it doesn't have frontage it doesn't have frontage on a public road.
The entire 90 acres does.
Yeah, that'd be up to the building commissioner, whether he would issue a building permit for
So
that lot.
feasibly, they could put a house up there, you know, under certain conditions,
Yeah, they might not like the tax burden on a 90-acre lot, and never mind the maintenance and everything else, but yeah, you know.
Somebody wanted to build a 40,000 square foot house.
Yeah.
You want to get some rich person.
Well, if you know someone, let me know.
It's possible to build a house as it sits. Okay,
Right, well, yeah, I mean, point taken. I mean, you know, I guess the reason that we're looking at, you figure it this way, is to develop a manageable, reasonably sized lot that would be suitable for the Whittemore's needs, but point taken, that's the rationale anyway. And you want to talk about your experience living on Bunnies?
Thank you. My name is Tim Hughes. I live at 36 Bunnies Road. And I have to say it's Bunnies Road, not way or anything. I've lived there for 2 years almost, and these were my first friends on the street to welcome me and such. The entire street is very welcoming. They know my dog quite well, and I walk it every day, twice a day type of thing. I see the very large garbage trucks and electrical vehicles and Eversource and all that have absolutely no problem getting down right to my house. They and you really need to come and see it because it's a beautiful, windy, tree-lined road that I grew up in the city, so I had a quarter of an acre of crap, you know, that I grew up with, you know, practically all cement. And here I finally have lake view and trees, and it is wide enough for my car and other cars and all the cars down there to get by. And I can even get by the electric vehicles, the very large ones, and the trucks, and so we've got 3 different types of garbage pickup that come down, etc. But I've had no difficulties in 2 years there. I love it there. It's my retirement home, and I'm just a little sad that they'll be further up the street from me, but I could still walk there. Again, if you have any questions about what a new neighbor is versus 35 years there, I can answer that. So,
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
your time. Thank you.
I'll add one brief nugget, if I might. Mr. Zelinski, Makepeace, you know, mentioned something to me just now. He said, look, you know, this wasn't something that was marketed by Makepeace. This wasn't, you know, put on MLS. This wasn't this was something where actually the Whittemores approached Makepeace. Hey, this is a beautiful parcel. We'd love to build our house. And Makepeace is trying to help, you know, someone local, obviously, a resident, build their retirement house. So just to give you some context, I think it's worth mentioning this is not a premeditated marketing strategy by AD Makepeace. This is really an accommodation to a local person that has a good relationship with Makepeace.
Thank you, because I personally do have the highest regard for Mrs. Whittemore and all dealings that I've had with her, and I hold her in the highest regard. Unfortunately, for me, the larger issues outweigh that, and I'm just going to have to vote with what I believe to be the truth, as will everybody else on the board. So, any further questions from the board? Seeing none, the chair will accept a motion in regards to the A&R application for lots 1 and 2. Off of Bunny's Way, I suppose. Off of the easement, which contains.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make that motion
And I
to
would like-
accept it.
I would like
To accept
second
it. Motion made by Mr. Robinson, seconded by Ms. Sordillo. Right. Any discussion among the board?
If I may,
Please.
did your motion include?
It's going to include the condition that I would strongly advise them not to come back looking to put a subdivision or a solar farm on Lot 2, if we are allowed to make that condition.
Maybe you condition each lot to be
a single dwelling.
Yes.
Is that,
Yeah, I was thinking more along the line of the, in its current state, it's the opinion of the planning board that sufficient weight, suitable grades, and adequate construction of Bunny's Road do not provide for the needs of vehicular traffic beyond the 2 lots being created.
I'm good with that.
And Mr. O'Dill, you'll
I'm definitely good.
okay, you're seconding that. All right, any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none. Mr. Dion.
Mr. Dion says nay.
John Gasky says nay.
Mr. Shea says nay.
Mr. Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sodillo says aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time, guys. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Our next order of business is, the purpose is another A&R, approval not required. The purpose of this plan is to combine additional land to Lot 1, weather vane at Patriot Pines on South Meadow Road. If you could give us a brief synopsis.
Yes, good evening. My name is Kenneth Conti. I'm with Beals and Thomas here, representing the applicant and owner, weather vane at the estates, Bristol Brothers Construction. The purpose of this plan is to take existing 3 lots and reorganize the lot lines to amalgamate into 2 lots. There is a rear lot that is at the back of the current subdivision known as Weather Vane and at the links, and it's a 13-acre parcel that was purchased last year by the owner, and the intent is to take a portion of that lot and include it with the existing development of the weather vane at the links, to create one large parcel now, which consists of the existing subdivision, this additional, I think it's about 7 acres, and then they also purchased a property that was previously being used for our emergency access off of Wade Street, and that now has been purchased by the owner, and they'll want to include that in this lot. The reason is to create, again, this one large parcel that will be the subject of an amended subdivision that the owner has already discussed with the town and reviewed it, and we are in the process of preparing a filing before this board to amend the existing weather vane subdivision.
So are you taking parcel A1 off of Lot 1? Is it being cut out of Lot 1? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, so parcel A1 right now is, what's shown as parcel A1 is what's remaining after they cut off the sliver at the end, the westerly end of weather vane. So there's a lot line that we've added that kind of separates the wetland. There's a wetland body just to the west of the lot line that we're creating. And that rear property will remain, and as I believe when we were at the board last time creating that 13-acre parcel, we included the same notation that lot's not to be considered a building lot. And we're taking a portion of it and adding the remaining portion to the weather vane property.
I'm still a little lost. Where's this 13-acre lot?
So the 13-acre lot is, well, it was a 13-acre lot. We don't show that the lot line that we've removed on the plan. Oh, you can point?
Yeah.
Oh. Sarah's gonna.
There we go.
Yep, where the cursor is now is the balance of this 13-acre lot that is being split out
The 8.5 acres?
Yeah, so there's about 5 acres being added to the weather vane development.
5 acres is being taken off of parcel 1A and added to lot 1.
Yes.
You realize parcel 1A doesn't have frontage?
Parcel A1?
A1, sorry.
Yeah, yes, parcel A1 does not have frontage, but it does have access, so it's not a landlocked property. It does have access through, I think it's Meadow
Well, I see utility.
Park
easement.
Road. Yeah, it's access and utility easement.
I see, right, but it doesn't look like parcel A-1 connects with Meadow Park Road.
That's correct. So there's no frontage for A-1. It has no legal frontage, which is why we labeled it not to be considered a building lot.
So it kind of pushes us into the same territory of the last one without frontage on a public way, and without adequate access.
There is adequate access.
So if I may,
Please.
Parcel A1 has a note on it that says, not to be considered a separate building lot. So they're not building anything on it. At some point in the future, when they come back with their subdivision plan, they're going to erase those lot lines. They're going to use that acreage in the calculation of density for the development. So we are not creating a new lot. We're essentially adding a parcel to lot 1. That'll be basically real estate for the development that's out front. So by itself, it is not a buildable lot because it doesn't have frontage. But it will be part of the development that you just mentioned, coming back for that revised subdivision development as one large lot, with that basis of that area being the calculation for the density for the development. And if I misspoke, straighten me out.
Yes, and just for the record, Sarah Stearns, also with Beals and Thomas. Many of you know I've been working on this project. Ken and I have for many years. We've talked to the board both informally and formally about the weather vane development. So this is just another step in the process. And as Ken alluded to, and Tom sort of touched on it as well, we are in the process of preparing our modification to the project's special permit. And that will be coming before the board very shortly. We've got it just about ready. So this was really just in anticipation of the adjustment of that development, which, as you know, is under construction now. We were here not too long ago talking about phase 1 modification. We've now redeveloped phases 2 and 3 for that development, and this is part of that. So the weather vane property purchased this 13 acres from the adjacent property through an A&R process that we did 6 months ago or so. And from that 13 acres, 8 of it is now proposed to be added to lot 1. So this is the weather vane property in and of itself. And as part of this, as Ken said, this Wade Street property down here where that little cranberry bog is, and our proposed emergency access will come in through Wade Street per the fire department, that lot through this plan is also being added. So now we just have one 38 or so acre parcel for the proposed development, which, like I said, we'll see in a few weeks.
Who owns the property with the compass notation, Massachusetts State Plain?
Could you be more specific?
I'm gonna guess it's directly to the east and north of lot 1, east of parcel A1.
I think
That's
that's the
the-
golf course.
Yeah.
No, this is partially in Carver, predominantly in Plymouth, Village Links Golf Course off of South Meadow Road. It's directly adjacent to this site.
You'd think that would be notated on here. And have you requested an ANOI to delineate the wetlands through the Conservation Commission?
I'm sorry, a what?
An ANOI?
A-N-O-I? I'm not familiar with that.
Abbreviated notice of intent in order to delineate the wetland areas?
An ANRAD?
ANRAD.
So this site has been delineated and approved through the notice of intent process back in 2018, I believe, when the weather vane property was proposed. We will be going back to the Conservation Commission because the expansion of this acreage is now closer to this cranberry bog. So there will be some eventually work proposed within the outer buffer zone to that bog. So that will require another visit to the Concom. But other than that, there are no wetland resource areas on this site.
It looks like there's a bog that runs the eastern length of the property.
The eastern length.
But I would have a better idea if the wetlands were delineated.
I'm sorry, the eastern length of this property? Where the golf course is?
Between the golf course and parcel A1, between the.
Yes, so
Yeah.
this wetland has been delineated. Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I was asking.
Yes, so this wetland here has been flagged. This bog will be, the wetland bog down here also has the 65 local and 100-foot buffer zone that will also be denotated on a filing with the Conservation Commission.
Again, the biggest issue with this is it does not have frontage. It does not have adequate access.
Lot
Which
one,
lot does not
lot
have
one
adequate
is what we're focusing on, which has frontage on South Meadow Road.
Lot 1 does, but lot A1 doesn't.
And that's a non-buildable lot.
Okay.
And that's, if I.
And that's why you
that-
want it, so you
yeah.
can build on it.
Yeah.
So basically.
No, that's the remaining parcel. That's untouched.
That's the remaining.
Yes.
Well, excuse me,
Uh-oh.
It's very confusing. 'cause
it is, I'm not familiar with, I wasn't here
Well,
with you
perhaps,
guys.
perhaps the planner can explain to you, because
Yeah,
this is the board's role to look at a plan like this, which is called approval not required. If a PLS is preparing this and stamping this and signing off on it, Ken is acknowledging that this plan has been prepared in accordance with the subdivision control law to meet the criteria of a Form A. I'm sorry, I have these windows open, I don't know.
No,
what happened here.
it's recording our last meeting, so now it's done recording it, so now
Oh, okay.
it says, where do you want to put it at?
Okay.
So I'll get back to the computer in a bit.
I
so
think part of the confusion
I have a question.
with me personally lies with the fact that the original property lines weren't delineated on this. But please,
So by adding this land, you will increase the number of houses you can build in the development. Is that coming forward next?
The layout for the proposed work will be included in our next submission. So this is really just to arrange the parcels, the lot
Right.
lines.
By increasing the overall parcels, you'll be able to build more houses in the whole development.
Potentially,
Yeah.
yes.
So, we are not creating additional parcels. So where you're looking at taking one parcel and making multiple building lots, you have to have frontage in order to make those lots. In fact, the A&R process doesn't really care if it's a buildable lot. The A&R process says if it's got frontage on a way, the board shall endorse the plan within 21 days. Now, the board has these levers they get to use, and this one is already on the label, on the plan. It says parcel A1, this parcel is being added to lot 1, the one with the frontage out here, is not considered a building lot, as a separate building lot. So that is the protection to someone who's gonna buy this. They're not looking, oh, they just created A1, I'm gonna snap this thing up and put my house on it, because it's got a big note on it that says it's not a buildable lot. So what's in front of the board tonight is combining parcel A1 with lot 1, and parcel A1 has a note that says not to be considered a buildable lot. The frontage for the entire operation is on South Meadow Road, which is a public way.
well,
So it's perfectly within the board's right and wheelhouse to endorse a plan where we're not creating additional lots, we're just combining them.
understood. But here's my question. Parcel A1 is remaining parcel A1, correct? And you've taken 5 acres off of that to add to lot 1. Is that,
I believe it's 8. that right?
So you're adding parcel A1 to lot 1. Because 13 acres, 5 acres, 8.5 acres, it's getting a little confusing here because the original lot lines weren't included.
Just to hopefully clarify, because I
Please.
understand the confusion, and I apologize for not showing the existing assessors lines on here. But I think I can hopefully simplify it and clarify. What I have here is the plan. This orange line here represents the existing lot line between the Weather Vane Estates development and an existing parcel that was created last year that had the same notation, not to be considered a separate building lot. And all we're doing is taking this sliver of this existing assessor's line parcel and adding it to the Weather Vane, and now decreasing the size of the non-buildable lot.
Thank you. That's the clarification.
Okay, so
A1,
you're not looking at,
A1
you're not
staying.
looking at
A1
property
is still
where,
separated
Yes.
and not part of the.
it's,
okay.
it's
So
been
you're not
shrunken.
You're not looking at the property with the compass arrow on it. We're not, that's not what we're looking at.
No.
Oh, okay.
There's no line there, so you can't
'Cause-
tell what they're doing.
Right, because I'm looking at that going, okay, looks
Well-
to me like they're going to build right on over to Meadow Park Road, but, okay.
No, this
I
is
can
still,
see.
all this land back here.
That,
is-
right, that land will have frontage because it's being, the A1 won't have frontage, but the 5 acres you're adding to lot 1 will through lot 1.
Correct.
And I
Okay.
apologize again, missing out on
Any questions from the board?
No.
Now, this will make parcel A1 not a buildable lot.
that. Correct.
Okay. Because that piece is gone, it takes away the access to that lot.
Can we do that? Can we make parcel land not buildable?
You guys
Yeah.
speak up.
All right, no.
All right.
It already is.
It's already that way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well, it was to be not considered a separate building lot, but you're making it not a building lot. That is what's
See-
gonna happen here, because it will become inaccessible in its current state.
Yeah, it's, so we can't control whether a lot is a buildable lot or not, right? That can only be the
That's
determination by the building inspector.
That's
So
fine.
as surveyors, we don't typically write not a buildable lot. We just-
Right.
I can't say that.
Understandable.
So we say not to be considered a separate building lot, as it is, because A, it does not have any frontage.
question real quick. The, just for my edification here, the cranberry bog, is that upland or lowland bog? That's on there.
Which bog?
The
Wade Street?
one down at
Wade Street?
off of Wade Street, yeah.
That piece right there is a wetland bog. There's another piece closer to Wade Street that's an upland bog.
So between the two, one of the bogs is a lowland bog and the other one is an
Yeah,
upland.
yeah. We went through a process with the Concom a few years ago to determine the jurisdictional status of those. They're really kind of funny, just sort of little tiny bogs tucked into this neighborhood away from the rest of the bog land. So we went through that process with Concom to determine the status of those two pieces. And there's, just so the board knows, there's nothing proposed over there other than that emergency access where there's an existing access road off of Wade Street. This is merely just to connect that lot to the main property.
Should be part of the open space, right?
Any questions from the board?
I'm good.
well, I do have a
Please.
question. So what happens to that bog there? Where's the access to that bog there?
That bog?
So
Bunny Road?
that's off-site. That's owned by 80 Makepeace, adjacent to this property. So that is accessed from a completely different area of their
Okay, no,
property.
I see it on the map, so I'm just
Yeah,
asking the
of
question.
course, that's fine.
So that
but-
has nothing to do,
No,
so-
that's like the back of their land.
so they can access it from their land back there?
They have
That's-
multiple access points.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That's part of many hundreds of acres. It's
All right.
the very edge of it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The board will accept a motion to approve the ANR with the conditions that parcel A1 be further identified as not to be considered a building lot. The word separate shall be removed from it.
I'll make that said motion.
And I'll second it.
Motion made by Mr. Robinson, seconded by Ms. Sardillo. Any further discussion among the board?
Anything there?
No,
All right.
So they're gonna make it remove separate.
vote. Mr. Dion says yes.
Are you making us remove the word separate from our plan? Or is that just your decision?
That's, by removing the other land from this, it creates an impassable barrier on one side, and it has no access, so is not to be considered as a building lot until it's appropriately has frontage and access through that frontage to any buildable, developable areas in that lot.
So does Ken need to amend the plan, I think is his question.
So
Well,
you're,
it would be,
would you repeat your motion?
to approve the A&R for Lot 1 on the condition that the word separate be removed from parcel A1.
Yeah, I got a Sharpie.
Okay.
I can line out separate building lot. That's right at this point on the plan?
That's right,
Yep.
it is not to be considered a
Now,
building lot.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Please.
This is a separate property, and I don't know who owns the property to the north. I don't know how big the property is. I don't know if it's part of the golf course.
If
I
it,
don't know
if it's
what it is.
added to another
If
property,
it's added to another property and they want to build on that, this land right here, I'm
well,
assuming
then
that
the
they're
other
putting
property
that-
would have frontage and
Which is why we
adequate
put the word
access.
separate in here, because it's not an
Right.
isolated.
But as it stands alone, it is not a building lot,
Correct.
and that's what I want identified. If it's added to another piece of
And-
property, then it can be reconsidered as a building lot. But as a standalone property, it is not a building
Well,
lot.
that's why we said standalone separate. If we look it up in the dictionary, they're pretty close to being the same thing.
Right, well, the words will be changed to not to be considered a building lot
on my plan.
without, well, that's where we're going. If you add it to another property, then it could be considered a building lot depending on whether it has access and access through frontage and frontage. As that property stands, it is not a buildable lot.
And isn't that what the plan is indicating? Are we saying the same thing?
But is there, I don't understand what the problem is. It's not a buildable lot. As if we approve this, because the buildable portion of it is gonna be added to Lot 1. And if it, as an entirety, was added to Lot 1, the 5 acres that we're considering adding would be buildable. But again, because there's no access or frontage for that rear property, it's still not a buildable lot. The only buildable section of it would have been the section that you've attached to Lot 1. Currently, it is not a buildable lot
Would
because
you accept language on the plan to the fact, saying it's not a buildable lot as it is, as shown?
not to be considered a buildable lot. Add it to something else, and then it can be considered a buildable lot if it has access and frontage. But we can't create rear lots, and that's not a buildable one, and therein lies the issue. Any further discussion among the board? Mr. Dion?
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sodillo says aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, please.
All right.
Take one down, pass it around.
Sorry about that, Rich.
I'm gonna make sure you guys have all 3 of them, and I'm gonna have to get the the maps from everybody else to sign later. Next on the agenda is public hearing continued on the application of Bridgestone Development, Inc., requesting a special permit and site plan review pursuant to sections 3100, 5300, 2330, and 2230 of the Carver zoning bylaws located at lot number 3, Ricketts Pond Park, off Spring Street in Carver, Mass. In the Spring Street Innovation District, the project will consist of the construction of 2 commercial buildings located at Lot 3, Ricketts Pond Business Park, located off Spring Street. The lot will be comprised of 2 commercial buildings with associated driveways, parking areas, closed drainage systems, septic system, and utility connections. Stormwater for the site development will be directed to infiltration basins designed to accommodate runoff from Ricketts Pond Business Park definitive subdivision.
Good evening, members of the planning board. Eric Shoemaker with Mackenzie Engineering Group. I'm here with our client, Mr. Mike Ficini of Bridgestone Development Incorporated. I believe since we've last presented this project to the planning board, we addressed a response letter from the peer reviewer for the planning board and made some minor revisions to the grading and drainage plan. So he asked us to tie into the existing grades on site. The plan before showed specifically these contours located to the rear of the property. They were tying in on lot 4 over here to the north. So we showed them now tying into the existing grade located on the site, kind of to separate the grading from the 2 properties. Believe we also made some slight revisions to the landscape plan. I'm not sure if those were presented to the board. We beefed up the buffer along the rear to provide some offset buffer of green arborvitaes. We added some additional landscaping, some shrubs and trees on the sides of the side buffers adjacent to the parking area. So that pretty much summarizes the revisions. They were pretty minor in nature. I believe we've addressed all the comments in the peer review letter. I didn't see any outstanding issues with that, and we'll answer any questions that the board members may have.
I do not have that.
Just to add as well, we revised this existing conditions plan to show the contours in red here are from our updated survey, similar to lots 1 and 2. The background contours in gray were what was originally surveyed in 2018 with the subdivision plans.
Sorry, Eric, is this the 3rd revision plan that we're looking at here?
Yes. Yep. Should have a revision date of August 15th, is that?
2022?
Yep.
Thank you.
This is the 100-foot buffer.
Could you tell me what the expected hours of operation in regards to this are?
I
answered that the last time.
9 to 5.
Mike Vicini, Bridgestone Development. That question came up at the last meeting we had, and I think we said it would be regular hours, hopefully 9 to 5, maybe 8 to 5. We're looking for,
Monday through Saturday?
yeah, I'm thinking Monday through Friday, but maybe a little bit on Saturday.
Did we add a fence in the rear?
We did not provide a fence. We provided the landscape buffer. We just thinking about logistically with the 2 rows of arborvitaes, that the fence really won't do much as far as screening the lot in that situation. So we thought it was overkill.
I don't know if you can tell from the elevations, there's a huge hill behind the buildings, probably almost as tall as the roof is going to be. So if we were to, the arborvitaes now are going to be way up on that hill above the building. So a fence in addition to a 15 or 20-foot hill, not sure if it makes a lot of sense.
Right, because there were some questions in regards to that, and we were, on the site walk, we were told that that was being brought down.
No, on the last site walk we had, I wasn't there the day you guys went out. We just had another site walk with the DEP that came out to look at some of the issues that had been brought up by Mrs. Sheehan on the pond. And when we were up there, that hill is substantial.
Okay.
When we were on our sidewalk, we were told that that hill was being brought down and that there was substantial earth removal to still be done in regards to that.
No. Like I don't know if you remember where the silt fence was up at the top of the hill. I don't know if you guys saw that when you were there.
There's no silt fence at the top of the hill.
Yeah, okay, well, there is now, and that's the line.
Okay, I'm looking at. And looking at the elevation lines, it looks like it's 140 on the lot, and then you come back inside the wetlands and it's 140 feet going down. Is there 145 as well? So it looks like maybe a little bit of a hill.
Yeah, there's a slight hill according to that that latest survey. Pretty much, move the mouse on it. It looks like right here it's 150 down to 145 down to 142. So maybe just 10 feet, 10-foot dirt pile in that area. That's what it looks like to me.
And I guess that's where the plantings would be.
So that's where what would be?
The plantings, the trees.
The arborvitaes.
Yes.
I mean, I'm looking at C2, and it looks like where you're saying your hill's supposed to be is where the back lot behind the buildings is.
Well, the hill is really sloping up from the pond. It's a substantial difference in elevation from the grade of the pond. I believe that's 128. Yeah. The parking area is up at 142. That's 20 feet. You'll have your arborvitaes at the top of the hill, adjacent to the edge of the pavement. So I don't see a need for a fence.
But that's the level of the lot.
Correct.
So it's straight out, and then you go down into the pond.
Yes.
So the fence and whatnot is as much for the residents living across the way as it is for anything else, to kill the sound, kill the light coming from the lot.
Trucks backing up to the back of the buildings.
That's what that's for. That, we're not saying put up a fence to protect the pond. The fence is for the neighbors so they don't have to listen to it. To kill the sound, to help you guys be good neighbors.
When I look at C2, I see what you're saying, it's going from 142 to 141 to 140. All right. Any further questions from the board? I see, there are some recommendations from Andy Glines in regards to conditions, requiring test pit data to be provided, to verify seasonal height, groundwater elevation, exfiltration rate, soil textural classification within infiltration basin number 1 prior to the issuance of a building permit. Fuss and O'Neill also recommends a condition requiring that Ricketts Pond Drive and associated utilities be constructed for the entire frontage of Lot 3 prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Please.
We have previously approved lots 1 and lots 2 in this development. And so using the model for lots 1 and lot 2, I sort of put together a list for conditions for lot 3. I'll be happy to go through them. If you like.
If I may also, Tom.
Please.
We've got 11 parking spots up front. We can only approve 8. Also, I don't see, didn't we discuss monitoring wells for the,
It's in the conditions.
It's in there.
it's in the conditions, I
Yeah.
don't see them in the plan, so they, are they
Condition-
highlighted in the plans?
It could be a
Condition
condition of
number-
approval. We're not showing it on the plans because it's, I mean, the location is subject to be determined.
Right, it's under condition number 6. A condition be included in requiring the installation of 2 monitoring wells. Testing criteria and frequency shall be discussed and determined by the Board of Health, Concom, and Planning Board. It should be noted that this section states that the cost will be borne by the property owner. I expect you've included all of Andy's
Yes.
conditions.
So, so as I said, this is the third of 3 lots in the area, so the conditions are very similar to the
Yeah.
other 2. The findings of the board include that the references to the Carver Master Plan, that the land use policies that protect Carver's rural districts by encouraging growth in preferred locations, a land use strategy 311 that future large-scale commercial growth should take place in North Carver, and economic development goal 4.1, the traditional economic development to the Green Business Park and the Spring Street Innovation District in North Carver. In those conditions, prior to the issuance of a building permit, a true copy of the recorded decision is registered at the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds shall be submitted to the Planning and Permitting Office. 2, the project must be constructed as approved in the site plan. Other revisions will require approval from the board as a modification of this decision. 3, the applicant is responsible for the proper operation and maintenance of the site. During construction, sediment and erosion controls shall be installed, repaired, and supplemented as needed. Dust control is required during construction, and the roadway apron is kept swept and clear of any dirt, dust, and debris. A copy of the operation and maintenance plan shall be submitted to the town in Fuss and O'Neill prior to the issuance of a building permit. A bike rack, per the Carver zoning bylaw, section 334 is required. 2 test pits shall be constructed in infiltration basin number 2 at that point for this decision, but 2 test pits will be constructed to verify there is adequate vertical separation from seasonal high groundwater prior to directing stormwater to the existing stormwater management basin. A Ricketts Pond and associated utilities shall be constructed for the entire frontage of Lot 3 prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, where the building permit is required for a retaining wall in excess of 4 feet, and that slope stability analysis be conducted and certified by a professional geotechnical engineer. I don't believe we have a retaining wall on this site, so that can be struck. Slope downside gradient of the cistern shall be inspected by the town to verify that it is stabilized prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. That, once again, not a cistern on this site. The renderings of the buildings will be provided to the planning board prior to their construction. I believe we have the renderings in the site plans. A specific stormwater pollution plan, a SWIP, shall be provided to the town planner and F&O prior to the issuance of a building permit. It should be noted that a SWIP for a subdivision has already been prepared by the developer and is included in the stormwater report for the lot submissions. Final plan set should include items from Fuss and O'Neill's review letter. I'll plug the date of that in. Add existing conditions plan, add stormwater basins to Ricketts Pond. So basically Andy's last requirements would be in there. Grading utility plans, erosion control plans, landscape plan. Condition number 12, only household quantities of any hazardous materials are permitted. A final landscaping plan will be provided to Fuss and O'Neill prior to permitting. Per Carver zoning bylaw, section 3131K, a separate sign permit application is required where new signage is proposed, included on the site entrance. 15, prior to the issuance of a certificate of use, any outstanding balance of review and inspection deposit accounts shall be paid. B, an as-built plan shall be submitted to the town engineering and planning departments in both electronic and hard copy format prior to the final inspection. And C, in accordance with section 3180 compliance of the Carver zoning bylaw, the town engineer shall inspect the project to ensure it has been completed in compliance with the approved site plan and its conditions. A dumpster pad shall be bermed, and these are conditions from the previous decision. A dumpster pad shall be bermed, and any runoff from the dumpster pad shall be contained to a catch basin on site. 17, a vermin control plan will be submitted to the Board of Health for the property. 18, due to ongoing drought conditions in southern Massachusetts, a monitoring well shall be installed on Lot 3. During the building permitting phase, a review by health and the fire departments of water quality and availability will be conducted. And those were the conditions that the board had proposed for the previous.
No storage of household quantities of hazardous materials?
That was condition number
Oh, okay.
He noted that, yeah.
Sorry.
12. It's okay, there's a lot of them. If you're keeping score at home.
No lofts or second floors? Snow removal has to be done outside of the 100-foot buffer. This building these buildings are not open to public access.
Correct.
And we should establish your hours of operation, with 7 to 7 Monday through Friday, and maybe an 8 to 5 on Saturday be acceptable for you?
Yes.
Okay.
So not access to public in 7 to 7?
7 to 7 Monday through Friday, and then 8 to 5 on Saturday. And I don't know if you got snow removal outside of that.
Snow removal outside the 100-foot
Okay.
buffer.
And no public access.
No public access.
And this is to remain a private road, correct? I think that was.
I think that's a condition of the
Okay.
subdivision plan.
All right.
And I will verify that the roadway has been, we've been getting inspection reports from Fuss and O'Neill regarding the completion of the subdivision, and roadway, the additional roadway has been put down on the site. I was by there today. They're building the property on the A&R lot, and for the most part, the roadway's in.
All right. I will accept the motion to approve Ricketts Bond with conditions as noted.
And we make said motion.
I will second that.
Motion made by Ms. Sardillo, seconded by Mr. Robinson. Any discussion amongst the board?
Yeah, well, I have quite a few concerns about the property. It's being inside the 100-foot buffer. There's the decision that they don't have to worry about the neighbors across the way. Things like that. It's.
If I could
I don't.
Mr. Chair, they're putting in 57 arborvitaes, and I would rather see a natural buffer than to see a wooden fence.
Okay, but
Quite
there
honest
should
with
be,
you, and
but
that
there
is
should
a
be
significant
trees, there should
cost.
be trees there already.
There should be trees there, but that's not that's not what they did. They're adding to the landscape. They're improving it. They're making it better.
Right, but those
Why would you
trees,
want them to have the cost of a fence too, when they're making it a better project by putting in a natural buffer?
because that buffer is not as effective as a fence knocking down the sound and the light for the people across the way.
So, would a condition to prohibit noise and light from residential properties?
That was the point of the fence.
Well, it's something that would, if we get complaints from neighbors, that we can come back and revisit as, if it's as a condition.
That's fine.
Because technically they are prohibited from creating nuisances on other properties, so adding it into the order of conditions will give it a little more teeth.
That's fine.
So light and noise levels should not exceed what's permitted under the Carver zoning bylaw? Is that the nature of that?
Right, and such as, let me see,
Yeah, we're looking at opening things up from 8 to 5 on Saturdays for these. And then so chances are there's going to be truck activity in the morning hours when people are trying to sleep in, relax, enjoy their mornings.
there'll be lights, and, according to the bylaws, they're not supposed to be visible 50 feet off the property.
Mr. Nagaski, you continue to talk about a fence. What type of a fence are you interested in seeing?
Well, there was one recommended by our engineer, wasn't there?
I believe so.
A baffler?
Yeah.
I might be
And
mistaken
how tall
on
would
that.
that be?
I'm not sure, what did he recommend? I think he recommended 8 or 10 feet, something like that.
Off the top of my head.
I don't recall
No.
exactly what he had recommended. I'll have to.
And if I could, Mr. Chair,
Please.
how tall are the arborvitaes that you're proposing to put in?
I think I have a planting schedule. Hold on. 8 feet in height. And like I said, we're providing 2 rows of them, so
I can see that they're offset, and you would probably put them in offset 5 feet on.
Yep.
On center.
I think that's what I drew on the plan.
Okay. I
So
just wanted to make sure that I understood that.
the idea was, being a area adjacent to a pond with some vegetation and woods in the rear, we didn't want to hinder any sort of animals or critters back there from moving back and forth. So that was the intent. And just like to add, the lighting we spec'd is all dark sky compliant light bulbs. So that with, the typical height extruding into the neighborhood with the buffer that we provided.
Well, the lights should only be on within a half hour of your business hours. After that, they should be off.
Understood.
Yeah, one of the best things that's happened to outdoor lighting are LED lights that don't throw out light quite as much as old mercury lights and things like that. And the fact that there's been so many advances in motion sensors, timers, and things like that, really people are saving a lot of money by putting in the right lights with the right controls on them. Because electricity, as we know, isn't getting any cheaper.
Right, do we have any further discussion? I have a motion on the floor. Mr. Dion.
Mr. Dion says nay.
Mr. Gatsky.
John Gasky says nay.
Mr. Shea says nay.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sodillo says aye.
Thank you very much. Our next order of business is on public hearing continued on the application of Prolio Concrete Forms requesting a site plan review of sections 2230 and 3100 of the Carver zoning bylaw for property located at 0 Forest Street in Carver, Mass. in the general business zoning district. Applicant proposes the construction of a single commercial building, associated utilities, stormwater control, parking lots, and access drives. The building will be used as a craftsman tradesman building.
All right, we got a request to continue this.
All right.
The review of the latest plan just came in yesterday, so they're taking it under advisement.
Okay. At the request of the applicant, we will continue this to, are we looking at October 14th, if I remembered your email correctly?
Well, what I had suggested to the board is that I'm not going to be here on the 11th. And the board's perfectly willing and capable of doing things without me here. You've done it forever. So if you want to continue the meeting to the 11th, I just won't be here and won't have a lot of lead time beforehand. So I had suggested the board might consider, rather than meeting on the 11th, meeting on the week before the 4th, which is only a week from now, which gives people who are pretty close to being ready to go an opportunity to go, or meet the weekend after, the week after of the 18th.
Well, currently, we're only looking at Prolio for the 4th?
Yes, nothing else is scheduled right now for any of those dates. So, yeah, we could have, if we met on the 18th, we could likely have that pretty well buttoned up entirely.
We have that buttoned up.
If we met on the 18th, I think between that time of the back and forth between the engineers, we could likely have some issues on 0 4th Street buttoned up.
That makes sense. The pleasure of the board, 18, okay with?
Fine with me.
Mr. Gatsky?
Yeah, it'll work.
Mr. Robinson?
Fine with me.
Mr. Ardillo?
Mr. Bott, you had the correct date for Yom Kippur. When is that?
It is October 4th. Starts on the 4th, ends on the 5th.
Right, the 18th, fine.
I keep track of these things.
I noticed.
So that sounds fantastic. We'll
Okay.
continue the public hearing of Prolio Concrete Forms to October 18th at 7 p.m. All right. Next order of business is public hearing continued. Sorry. On the application of Christopher Mazalewski requesting a special permit pursuant to section 5300 and 2230 of the Carver zoning bylaw located at 17 Wareham Street in Carver, Mass. in the residential agricultural zoning district. The project will consist of landscaping with tree services, home occupation.
Alrighty, if I may.
Please.
Welcome back. So I prepared a draft decision for 17 Wareham Street. We had a discussion a couple of times on the site about those things that would be handy to screen this site from the neighbors. So in the draft decision, those conditions would include a copy of this recorded decision would go to the Registry of Deeds. All services for the business are provided off-site. Additional plantings of green arborvitaes or some similar non-invasive screening species to expand and fill that area shown as the augmented screening area, as we see here in the green along the north side of the bog. Or similar non-invasive species to expand and fill in the area shown as the augmented screening vegetation. We plan along the gravel bog road to the northeast corner of the abandoned log, approximately an extra 100 feet, as required under section 3260 of the Carver zoning bylaw. The most effective screening is produced by planting 2 staggered rows at 8 to 10 foot intervals. The area identified on the existing conditions plan shows the area within the 65-foot conservation buffer, which will, per the Carver Conservation Agent, require permitting by the CONSCOM prior to planting. Firewood stored on the site is limited to personal use of the homeowner or per the Carver Fire Department, and we did get a letter from the fire department today about firewood on the site. And then a concrete pad for parking for 2 business trucks and the lift will be poured adjacent to the garage outside of the 100-foot conservation zone. So that would be essentially this area down here by the barn to put in a parking pad. So those are the things we had talked about before. Those are the things that we had discussed with the applicant at the site, and none of those things seemed particularly onerous to you at the time.
I just have one question. With the planting with the non-invasive species, would it be possible to do white pines, or does it have to be arborvitaes?
Well, I know that a lot of people are going with these green giant arborvitaes because they grow very vigorously. They are sort of deer resistant.
Mm-hmm.
A screening of white pines might be sufficient. When they start to get taller, they get a little leggy and they don't have quite the screening capacity for it. But they are deciduous. I mean, they are conifers, so they don't lose their needles during the winter. But the board's call for what type of screen plantings.
It was just an idea to cut costs. That was all it was.
I would expect that they be arborvitaes and,
I would defer to Kevin on that.
yeah, a tall one.
So, Mr. Bott made a very good point that unfortunately the white pines are a little bit less leggy, are leggy, and if you were able to get ones that look more full and like Christmas trees, that would be okay. I think I see where you're coming from. You're hoping to maybe use and transplant some of the ones that are on the property.
Mm-hmm.
But my only concern would be is that they'd have to be full, already full, and they would have to be offset, at least 10 feet from each other so that, it would be a good hedge.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the arborvitaes, the whole purpose for the arborvitaes is for the thickness and protection of the barrier. So it would have to be a condition that you couldn't just throw any white pines in there. They would have to be significant full white pines that would create a significant, a sufficient buffer.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be something the Conservation Commission would be,
Well, they'd have to approve it. We can only approve the plans conditional on Conservation Commission approving.
so you could say either or let them, in other words, if you say he's gotta do one and they say you gotta do the other, then does he gotta start this whole thing over again? Or can you?
If I may, from my conversations with the conservation agent, the Conservation Commission's primary concern is not putting invasive species in the area that are gonna migrate into the wetland areas. So a white pine, there's a lot of them, but I don't believe they're invasive, they're indigenous. So that's likely not gonna be an issue with what they're planning, if it's white pine or arborvitae, just as long as it's not something that's gonna take off and just, rip through the
I
wetlands.
just didn't want them to get stuck. We say one thing and they say something else, so.
Yeah. That's why the condition said green giant and arborvitae or similar non-invasive screening species.
Good.
I have a quick question. How the goats doing?
They're holding up.
All right.
They're hanging in there.
All right, that's good.
Questions, comments?
I had a quick question.
Please.
Ashley Adams. The concrete pad, are we talking just, vehicle size, just extending where the cars park? Because one truck is, a regular pickup truck with a trailer on it. The other is the international CDL truck, but I don't see why they would need to be on a concrete pad.
One of the things that we happened to notice while we were there was
Oil from the,
yeah,
that'd be the personal
quite
boat.
an
That's what we were just
extensive
saying. Those aren't from the
amount.
trucks. That's from the personal boat. So I'm not sure that would remedy anyways. We would put the boat somewhere else and that
I
oil would be
suppose
there
we'll-
from the
We'll
boat.
have to see. Equipment does leak, and there is discharge from it. There'll be no working on the vehicles on the property.
Yep.
There'll be no maintenance on the property. There'll be no storage of materials on property. There'll be no storage of materials or equipment on that bog until you get that cleared through the Conservation Commission. You can write upland bog on here, abandoned upland bog, but that means absolutely nothing unless it's been certified by the Conservation Commission. The screening, of course, you won't be allowed to do work on the property, and no parking of vehicles within, or equipment within the 200-foot riverfront zone, which is marked here on your map. Also, I would like to see a screening done on the property line between you and, I believe it's Mr. Archer, along the edge of your house, because he shouldn't have to see your equipment or hear your equipment over there. You shouldn't be starting or running equipment before 7 o'clock in the morning either. And what's the typical cutoff point, Kevin?
6 o'clock?
So 7 to 7, I would think
Yeah.
would
Yeah,
be
I mean,
fair.
obviously, they're gonna lose light, and our work is gonna come to an end at 4:30. But, in the summertime, it's fair to say at least 7 o'clock.
Yeah, no one wants to work a 12-hour day.
All right.
Can I touch upon the no working on the truck certain? So does that mean he'll change his own oil? So can't he pull his own truck into the garage as long as it's done inside the personal home garage? He can work on the truck or something?
Maintenance on commercial vehicles should not be done on residential.
Oh, I'm talking about his own, the truck with the trailer, not the commercial one.
Well, is
I'm just saying, can we do nothing on
Is
his
it-
own cars out in his driveway? That's all I'm
it a
asking.
personal truck or is it commercial equipment?
His personal. I just was asking in
that's-
general. If he
that's-
wants to change his own oil in his truck, is he
Yes.
allowed to do it now
On
or
a-
just
on a
make it, we can't do
personal vehicle,
anything?
Yes, but
Okay.
commercial vehicles should not be
Understood.
on,
Perfect.
on a residential property,
Yes.
especially one that is so, I mean, you're on all sides.
I understand. I just didn't want the condition that'd be blanketed and all of a sudden he came to his own personal tire
No, it's
or
only-
something,
it's-
you know,
it's
just 'cause it's
limited
written.
to just commercial
Okay,
vehicles, because
perfect.
that's what we're dealing with.
Thank you.
Any discussion on the board? All right, the board will accept the motion to approve the application of Mr. Mazalewski in regards to special permit to operate a landscaping with tree services home occupation in a residential agricultural district.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Gatsky.
I'll second it, because I can.
You can.
Oh, that's, I forgot. Thank you, Mr. Shore. All right, any discussion amongst the board? You weren't there, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Dion says nay.
John Gasky says aye.
Mr. Shea says nay.
Ellen Sedillo says aye.
Mr. Williams says aye.
All right. Thank you. You have a good evening.
So
Thank you.
can we-
Appreciate your time.
Can we roll over the votes one more time? So, nay,
Nay.
nay,
Yay.
you're yay.
Yay.
Looks like-
I say I only heard one nay. Got excited. Don't add another.
All right.
Nay.
Oh,
So,
two.
Rich and you are both nay?
Yes.
Oh, it was
Right.
two.
So as a special permit, it requires a supermajority vote. So that is 3-2, that does not approve the special permit.
All right.
Just making sure everybody's clear.
Thank you very much.
So where does that leave us, if you don't mind me asking? Because I know we initially didn't really need the special use permit because everything was off-site. The first meeting we came in, you guys are questioning why we were even doing it. And then since we said we were doing it, let's just go forward with it.
Well, there's no restriction of parking your personal vehicles on
Okay.
your property.
It's just the commercial vehicle, because we have to find somewhere to locate our commercial vehicles.
No. I don't think that the town of Carver restricts the parking of commercial vehicles. It's you can't run a business out of your property.
So where do we go from here? We have to,
That's, Mr. Bott might have a suggestion or two, but,
Yeah, we'll have to talk to the building commissioner tomorrow.
yeah,
okay.
See where we're at.
but I don't personally think there's any, restrictions on parking your vehicles on your property.
So that's where I'm confused, because nothing is done on site whatsoever. We leave at 7, and the vehicles
Well,
go
there's-
back in.
That we did, maybe I should have read it into the record, but amongst the other information that we've received over the whole period of time from the people that talked and people that sent in, did they receive a copy of the report from the fire department?
They got the things that Mr. Benson submitted.
Okay, there was also a recommendation to the Town of Carver Fire Department. I'm gonna give you my copy. And I apologize if that should have been, or we probably should have, but I don't know that it's a requirement, but we should have sent that to you.
I believe it's the storage of wood, which is just my own personal, for my own house, is what's described in here. Wood product storage. Because the firewood's the only thing that's there. Unless you technically would call the wood chips for the ground cover, just because it was so muddy down there.
We have nothing to do with that. That's strictly to the fire department and their recommendations in regards to this project.
Now,
We-
is there a process to appeal and try again if we?
Mr. Bott, are they eligible to appeal to the ZBA?
Well, a special permit goes to court.
Okay.
Doesn't go to the zoning board of appeals.
Land court.
It's just, it frustrates me because nothing really is done on site. I understand maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago when he was bonehead and didn't really know the laws or with the neighbors, and now that he's got things underway, it's been years and he's been doing a good job. He's quiet and there's nothing. He sits out there reading a book sometimes if he doesn't have to work. I mean, or he's either out cutting trees. So it's like, what noise or what is he doing? It's a little.
Mr. Bott, what, and why was it that I couldn't vote?
You
Because
missed
I
the
missed
meeting.
the original meeting?
Correct.
He did attend the site visit.
I did make the
Yes.
site
Yeah.
visit.
Unfortunately, because we don't have the Mullen rule, you can't miss a meeting and then vote on the application, which is why Mr. Williams was
I
had to
understand
vote.
that.
But hopefully in spring, will be a town meeting with the Mullen rule and a couple other things to bring to the body.
I was actually surprised that it wasn't at this last meeting.
Well, we didn't discover it until after the warrant was closed.
Oh, okay.
We're talking like small business owner here, livelihood, offering essential service to Carver.
Well, yeah.
Trees coming through roofs that we run out and get to, and him going to break his back to get to them to clear.
Landscaping and tree
trees off the
services can be very invasive on a residential, but we also have to consider environmental and various other aspects.
So do we have to halt operations from?
Yeah.
Operation should never have been started.
Let's talk to the building commissioner tomorrow.
Okay, if we were told we were okay, well, okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Next order of business is preliminary subdivision plan, AD Makepeace Company, Wankinko, 0 and 46 Federal Road, and they have, the proponents have requested a extension.
Correct.
Continued till October 18th.
Sounds swell.
Planning Director notes, Mr. Bott.
We had a conversation, Kevin and I, without actually talking about it, because he said, there's this thing about signing plans, signing decisions and things like that. It's one of the things that is in the procedural manual previously about the board allowing the staff, the planner, to sign plans. So it's something that I think had been previously done by the board before. It's one of those things that we need to talk about in the procedural manner and look at how we're going about doing things to see how the board is comfortable with something like that. It's one of the things that I did in Falmouth. It's nothing I ever did in Kingston for 20 years. So it's, clearly the decision of the board how they want to proceed with something like that. But I started, a couple months ago looking at the procedures manual and, sort of figuring out how we've historically done things to get that information to you guys. So we certainly need to have a meeting, sort of a business meeting at a future meeting about, processing the work through these sort of things for signatures. That's essentially what I've got.
You're talking about like a bi-direction signature or something?
Yeah, well, if in Falmouth, the board had made a motion that authorized the town planner to sign for the board. So when a decision comes in, rather than the board signing on 5 lines of the A&R plan, the board votes it, the planner signs it. Same for decisions, same for other plans as well. It's just one of those procedural things. I said, for 20 years in Kingston, the board signed everything. In Falmouth, they did that. Here, I think they've likely vacillated both between the two. So once again, I think we need to have a business meeting at some point in the near future about those procedural issues. But while we're on the subject, since I said I had nothing else to say, and I'm going to keep saying things, there is CPC training coming up. CPTC, the Citizens Planning Training Collaborative. We did one of those with Amy Quessel, Town Council. So it's CPT season coming up, so there'll be some additional classes offered. And one of those things I think would be very helpful for the board would be the A&R and subdivision module they do. So it may be available where people can just log in and do it. It's $35 a head for something like that, or we may look at scheduling a class like we did before and bringing a trainer in here to talk about those things, because there's I think that's one of the things that we need to expand our knowledge base on. So we'll see what the schedule is when it comes out, and I'll get it to you as soon as it's out.
SERPET meeting tomorrow night.
Don't we have a meeting over at the police station too?
I don't think so.
Last time we were gonna have a class.
Last year, we did a class a joint class with the ZBA, and
At
they
the fire
hosted it
station.
at the fire station, yeah.
All right.
All right, motion to approve minutes of 8/23/2022.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Ms. Sardillo,
I'll second it.
seconded by Mr. Dion. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Dion?
Mr. Dion says aye.
I will abstain.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sodillo says aye.
Right, the board will accept a motion for adjournment.
I'll make said motion.
Motion made by Mr. Dion,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Gatsky. Any discussion? Seeing
Mr.
none.
Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sodillo says aye.